Please don't hit me, I'm already hurt." The choked plea sliced through the clamor of the crowded airport terminal. A woman, impeccably dressed in a white business suit that usually projected an aura of command and control, was now collapsed on the polished floor, clutching a shoulder already purpling into a bruise. Passengers all around her stood frozen, a sea of statues. A famous CEO, begging like a frightened child. The surrounding crowd only raised their phones, taking photos and recording videos. No one dared to get involved. Only one man in a wrinkled shirt, holding his young daughter's hand, stopped. He gently set down his worn suitcase and looked directly at the aggressor, a man with his hand still raised in that threatening moment. In that instant, no one knew this ordinary single father was about to change everything. Arthur Finch, 38 years old, a single father and former military serviceman, now working as a janitor to make ends meet. A widower, his life revolved around his daughter, Lily, an 8-year-old girl who loved to draw and never went anywhere without her box of crayons. Arthur actively avoided trouble, his entire focus dedicated to raising his daughter. It was a rainy afternoon at the airport, where he and Lily happened to witness CEO Genevieve Reed, 35 years old, being cornered and physically pressured by her business partner. Arthur stepped in to halt the confrontation, his quiet authority forcing the aggressor to back down. He helped Genevieve away from the gawking crowd, bringing her to his small apartment near the airport because of the torrential rain and her injuries. The small apartment was warm and welcoming, a stark contrast to the coldness of the terminal. The walls were filled with children's drawings and cherished family photos. Genevieve sat in the modest living room, her body still trembling from the encounter. Her shoulder throbbed where her partner had violently grabbed her, and her once pristine white suit was wrinkled and stained with tears. "You didn't have to help me," she said quietly, her voice hoarse, watching Arthur move with purpose around the small kitchen. "Yes, I did," he replied simply, filling a kettle with water. "No one deserves to be treated like that." Lily emerged from her bedroom, clutching her favorite box of crayons. She studied Genevieve with the serious, discerning expression children adopt when they encounter something new and potentially important. "Daddy, why is the lady crying?" Lily asked with innocent directness. "She had a bad day, sweet pea. Sometimes grown-ups have bad days too." Lily nodded solemnly, then approached Genevieve with the fearless compassion only a child possesses. "Do you want to see my drawings? They're happy pictures. They might make you feel better." Genevieve felt something crack open deep in her chest. When was the last time someone had offered her something so purely, just to make her feel better, with no hidden agenda? "I'd love to see them," she whispered. As Lily spread her colorful drawings across the coffee table, Genevieve found herself genuinely smiling for the first time in what felt like months. The pictures were vibrant, full of sunflowers, rainbows, and stick figures holding hands under brilliant yellow suns. "This one is my daddy," Lily said, pointing to a tall figure with brown hair. "And this is me. And this empty space, that's for someone special we haven't met yet." The words hit Genevieve like a gentle blow. This child had unconsciously left room in her family portrait for someone unknown, someone yet to be loved. Arthur returned with a steaming mug of tea and a first aid kit. "Let me look at that shoulder," he said, his voice carrying the calm authority of someone accustomed to handling emergencies. As he carefully cleaned the bruise and applied a cold pack, Genevieve closed her eyes. His touch was gentle yet competent, the hands of someone who knew how to fix things that were broken. "You were in the military," she observed, not a question but a statement. "Navy corpsman. 8 years. What made you leave?" Arthur glanced toward Lily, who was now intently coloring a new picture. Priorities changed. Some battles are worth fighting, others aren't worth the cost. Genevieve understood. She had been fighting battles her entire adult life, but suddenly, she wasn't sure what she had been fighting for. The apartment was minuscule by her standards, her walk-in closet was probably larger than their entire living space. But it felt more like a home than her sprawling penthouse ever had. There was love woven into the details, Lily's artwork carefully displayed on the refrigerator, a cozy reading corner with well-worn children's books, family photos showing happier times. Your wife was beautiful, Genevieve said, noticing a photo on a side table. Clara. She died 3 years ago. Car accident. I'm so sorry. She would have liked you, Arthur said, surprising them both. She always said you could tell a person's true character by how they treated children and strangers. Lily likes you, and you needed help. That would have been enough for her. A trace of authenticity. Lily offered Genevieve the knitted blanket her mother had made, saying, "You're cold, aren't you?" The simple gesture of a child recognizing someone else's pain and wanting to offer comfort was almost too much to bear. That night, Genevieve slept on their small couch, wrapped in a blanket that smelled of lavender and safety. For the first time in years, she felt protected instead of powerful, and she discovered she much preferred it. In the small kitchen, Arthur cleaned Genevieve's wounds and made her ginger tea. Genevieve shared her story of being forced into a business marriage to secure her CEO position, realizing she was just a pawn in a larger deal. Arthur told his story of losing his wife, of a time he thought about giving up, but how Lily kept him anchored to life. The atmosphere grew heavy with shared silence and understanding. "You don't have to be strong tonight," Arthur said. Genevieve broke down, crying for everything she had lost and everything she had never had. They stayed up until 3 a.m., sharing their fears and their losses. The next morning, Genevieve found herself in the kitchen trying to help Lily make pancakes. Clumsy and unpracticed, she burned the edges. Genevieve had never made breakfast before. In her world, meals appeared on a schedule, prepared by staff she barely acknowledged. But standing in Arthur's tiny kitchen, trying to flip a pancake while Lily provided enthusiastic coaching, felt revolutionary. "No, you have to wait for the bubbles," Lily instructed with the patience of a born teacher. "See? Like that." The pancake was lopsided and slightly charred, but when Genevieve tasted it, she thought it might be the best thing she had ever eaten. "How do you do this every day?" Genevieve asked Arthur as they cleaned up the breakfast chaos. "Do what?" "Make it all look so natural." "The parenting, the household, the balance." Arthur laughed, a sound with little humor in it. "I don't have it balanced. I'm making it up as I go along, just hoping I don't mess her up too badly." "You're an amazing father." "I'm a father who loves his daughter and tries his best. Some days, that feels like enough." Other days he didn't finish the sentence, but Genevieve understood. She had spent her entire adult life trying to be perfect at everything, and it had left her empty and utterly alone. Over the following days, Genevieve found herself returning to their apartment after work. She told herself it was just to check on her healing shoulder, but truthfully, she craved the warmth and authenticity she found there. Lily had declared Genevieve her special friend and insisted on showing her everything, her rock collection, her favorite hiding spot behind the couch, the way she organized her crayons by color intensity. "Do you want to help me plant flowers?" Lily asked one afternoon. "Daddy said we could make a garden on the balcony." Genevieve had never planted anything in her life, but soon she was kneeling on the small balcony, digging her manicured nails into potting soil while Lily supervised with professional seriousness. "The flowers need love to grow," Lily explained. "You have to talk to them and give them water and make sure they get sunshine." "What do you talk to them about?" "I tell them about my day, and I tell them about Mommy, so they know about her too." Genevieve felt tears she didn't understand sting her eyes. "What was your mommy like?" Lily's face brightened. "She was really good at hugs, and she made the best cookies. And she always knew when I was sad, even when I tried to hide it. I bet she was wonderful." "She was. But now Daddy is sad sometimes, and I think he needs someone to take care of him, too." The innocent observation hit Genevieve like a revelation. She had never thought about taking care of someone else without expecting something in return. That evening, while Lily drew at the kitchen table, Genevieve and Arthur talked on the small balcony. "Can I ask you something?" Genevieve said. "Always." "Why did you help me that day?" "You didn't know who I was." "Does it matter who you were?" "Most people think so." Arthur considered this. I helped you because you needed help. Everything else is just noise. Even knowing who I am now? What I represent? You represent someone who was being hurt and needed protection. That's all I saw. That's all that mattered. Genevieve had never experienced being seen so simply, so clearly, without the distorting filter of her wealth and position. Arthur, she said quietly, I need to tell you something. My family, my board, they're going to come looking for me. They won't just let me disappear. Are you planning to disappear? The question caught her off guard. I don't know. I don't know what I'm planning. For the first time in my life, I'm not following a strategic plan. How does that feel? Terrifying. And liberating. Good. Fear means you're taking a real risk. Liberation means it's worth it. 2 days later, Genevieve made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. She submitted her resignation as CEO, effective immediately. You don't understand, her assistant said frantically over the phone. The board meeting is tomorrow. The merger depends on your presence. Then they'll have to figure it out without me. Genevieve, this is career suicide. Genevieve looked around Arthur's living room, where Lily was teaching her how to braid friendship bracelets while Arthur prepared dinner in the kitchen. Maybe, she said. Or maybe it's the first honest decision I've ever made. A trace of authenticity. Lily burst into laughter, saying, You cook just like Daddy. All three of them laughed together, creating a moment of pure warmth and connection that felt more valuable than any business achievement Genevieve had ever accomplished. That night, lying on the couch that had become her refuge, Genevieve realized she was falling in love. Not just with Arthur, but with the life they had created, a life where pancakes could be burned and still be perfect, where friendship bracelets were important currency, where love was measured in small, daily kindnesses rather than grand gestures. For the first time since childhood, Genevieve fell asleep looking forward to tomorrow instead of dreading it. 3 days later, luxury cars and lawyers arrived at the apartment building to apply pressure. A man mocked condescendingly, You have nothing if you don't come back. Arthur remained calm. She's a person, not property. Genevieve stood tall and declared, I'm not going back. I choose myself. She placed her company card, her engagement ring, and her car keys on the table, symbols of old power being decisively rejected. The group withdrew with threats. You'll be left with nothing. Genevieve collapsed. They're right. I have nothing. Arthur shared his wife's words from before she died. Don't try to save everyone. Just hold the hand of someone who's trembling until they can stand. He placed his hand beside hers on the table, letting Genevieve choose to place her hand on his. The confrontation came sooner than expected. Genevieve woke on the third morning to find 3 black SUVs parked outside Arthur's building. They're here, she whispered, watching from the window as men in expensive suits emerged from the vehicles. Arthur looked outside and recognized the setup immediately. Lily, go to your room and close the door. But Daddy. Now, sweet pea. Please. The knock on the door was sharp and demanding. Arthur opened it to find Genevieve's stepbrother, Julian, flanked by 2 lawyers and a security team. Miss Reed, Julian said, barely acknowledging Arthur's presence. This foolishness ends today. I'm not going anywhere, Genevieve said, stepping beside Arthur. Look around you. Julian gestured dismissively at the modest apartment. This is what your rebellion has brought you. A tiny apartment with a janitor and his child. Is this really what you want? Yes, Genevieve said without hesitation. This is exactly what I want. Julian laughed coldly. You think this is real? You think he actually cares about you? He's using you for your money, your connections. I don't have money or connections anymore, Genevieve interrupted. I resigned, remember. A tantrum. We can fix that. But this, he looked at Arthur with disgust, this is beneath you. Arthur had remained silent throughout the exchange, but now he stepped forward. You're done talking, he said quietly. She's told you her answer. It's time to leave. And who exactly are you to make demands? Julian sneered. Some nobody playing white knight. I'm someone who understands that people aren't possessions to be collected or traded. The lawyers began pulling out documents, talking about breach of fiduciary duty and family obligations. Genevieve listened to them reduce her life to legal terminology and felt something crystallize inside her. Stop, she said firmly. All of you, stop talking. She walked to the kitchen table, where Lily had left one of her drawings, a picture of 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. You want to know what I choose? I choose this. I choose people who see me as a person, not an asset. I choose a life where love isn't conditional on performance metrics. You're being naive, Julian said. What happens when the novelty wears off? When you realize what you've given up? Genevieve looked at Arthur, then toward Lily's bedroom, where she could hear the little girl humming while she played. Then I'll still have chosen to be human instead of a corporation. She removed her designer watch, the last expensive item she wore, and placed it on the table with the other symbols of her former life. I quit. All of it. The board, the family trust, the obligations. I choose something real. Julian's face turned red with fury. You're throwing away $1 billion legacy for what? Love? He said the word like it tasted bitter. Yes, Genevieve said simply. Love. And if you don't understand why that's worth more than money, then I feel sorry for you. After they left with their threats and ultimatums, Genevieve slumped onto the couch, emotionally drained. They're right about one thing, she said. I really don't have anything now. Arthur sat beside her. You have Lily's friendship. You have a place to sleep tonight. You have people who care what happens to you. That's not nothing. But what if I can't contribute? What if I become a burden? Clara used to say something when I worried about the future. She said, don't try to carry tomorrow's problems with today's strength, just be present for what's in front of you. Genevieve looked around the small living room that had become her sanctuary. What's in front of me? A little girl who wants to show you her new drawing. Dinner that needs to be cooked. A friendship bracelet that needs finishing. Today. Just today. That evening, as they sat around the kitchen table eating spaghetti and listening to Lily chatter about her day at school, Genevieve realized something profound. She wasn't poor. She was rich in ways she had never understood before. Genevieve, Lily said, twirling pasta on her fork, are you going to stay with us forever? I don't know about forever, sweetheart. But I'd like to stay for as long as you'll have me. Good. Because I already drew you into our family picture, and I don't want to have to erase you later. That night, after Lily had gone to bed, Genevieve and Arthur sat on the small balcony, looking at the city lights. Are you sure about this? Arthur asked. You're giving up everything you've ever known. I'm giving up everything I thought I wanted for everything I actually need. What do you need? Genevieve took his hand. This. People who choose me for who I am, not what I represent. A place where I can be imperfect and still be loved. The chance to discover who I really am when I'm not performing for an audience. And if you decide later that this isn't enough? If you want your old life back. Genevieve smiled, feeling more certain than she had about anything in years. Then I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But right now, this feels like the first real choice I've ever made. Arthur squeezed her hand gently. Clara always said the bravest thing anyone can do is choose love over fear. Is that what I'm doing? What do you think? Genevieve looked through the sliding door at Lily's drawing stuck to the refrigerator, at the couch where she'd slept peacefully for the first time in years, at the man beside her who had shown her what unconditional acceptance looked like. Yes, she said. I think that's exactly what I'm doing. Genevieve began working at a non-profit organization helping abused women. The income was lower, but her eyes were brighter than ever. The three of them replanted the balcony garden together, the same place where Clara once tended her flowers. Lily talked about her mother often. Mommy taught me to wait for flowers to bloom, not to pull their petals. Arthur and Genevieve gradually understood each other better, sharing small family responsibilities. One night, Arthur said softly, "I love you. Not because you were a CEO, but because you're becoming the person you choose to be." Genevieve replied, "I'm not ready yet, Arthur. We'll wait. I'm here." Genevieve's new job at the women's shelter was unlike anything she had ever experienced. The work was emotionally demanding, requiring her to listen to stories of trauma while helping survivors navigate legal systems and rebuild their lives. "I don't know if I'm qualified for this," she confided to Arthur after a particularly difficult day. "What makes you think you're not? These women need someone who understands their struggles. I've never been truly powerless before." Arthur considered this. "Maybe that's exactly why you're qualified now. You know what it feels like to be controlled, to have your choices taken away. And you know what it takes to walk away from that." Genevieve's direct supervisor was Rosa, a woman in her 50s who had built the shelter from nothing after escaping her own abusive marriage 20 years earlier. "You're different from most of our volunteers," Rosa observed during Genevieve's second week. "How so?" "Most people come here wanting to save everyone. You come here wanting to understand everyone. That's much more useful." Genevieve had thrown herself into learning every aspect of the shelter's operations. She helped with intake interviews, assisted with job placement programs, and even learned basic legal advocacy. Her business background proved unexpectedly valuable in helping women understand contracts, finances, and their rights. One afternoon, while helping a young mother fill out housing applications, Genevieve realized she was using skills she'd never known she possessed, not business acumen, but human connection. "Thank you," the woman said as they finished the paperwork. "You really listen to me. Most people just want to tell me what I should do." That evening, Genevieve shared the comment with Arthur and Lily over dinner. "That's because you know what it's like when nobody listens," Lily said with her characteristic directness. "You think so?" "Yes. Before you came here, you looked like the ladies on TV who smile but have sad eyes. Now your eyes match your smile." The observation, delivered with a child's uncomplicated honesty, made Genevieve's throat tight with emotion. Their life together had developed its own rhythm. Genevieve would arrive home in the evening to find Arthur helping Lily with homework while dinner simmered on the stove. She would change out of her work clothes and join them, often taking over reading duties while Arthur finished cooking. "I like this," Lily announced one evening as they sat around the kitchen table. "It feels like we're a real family now." "Weren't we a real family before?" Arthur asked gently. Lily considered this with her usual seriousness. "We were a good family. But now we're a complete family." Like the drawing I made, she showed them her latest artwork, 3 figures standing in a garden, each holding a different flower. "This is us," she explained. "Daddy has a strong flower because he takes care of us. I have a happy flower because I'm still growing. And Genevieve has a beautiful flower because she learned how to bloom." Genevieve felt tears she didn't try to hide. "It's perfect, sweetheart." Later that evening, while Lily was in the bath, Genevieve and Arthur worked together in their small balcony garden. The flowers Clara had originally planted were thriving under their care. "I keep thinking about what Lily said," Genevieve said, carefully watering a row of marigolds. "About being complete." "What about it?" "I've never felt complete before. I've felt successful, accomplished, powerful, but never whole." Arthur looked up from the herbs he was trimming. "What's the difference?" "Complete means all the parts fit together naturally. Successful just means you've achieved someone else's definition of worth." They worked in comfortable silence, their hands occasionally brushing as they tended the plants. Genevieve found herself studying Arthur's profile in the fading light, memorizing the concentration in his expression. "Arthur," she said quietly. That night, you said you loved me. I wasn't ready to hear it then, but I think I am now." He stopped working and gave her his full attention. And Genevieve set down her watering can and faced him fully. "I love you too. Not because you rescued me, though you did. Not because you gave me a place to belong, though you did that too. I love you because you saw who I could become before I even knew that person existed." Arthur reached out and cupped her face gently. "Are you sure? Because once we cross this line, there's no going back to being just friends. I don't want to go back to anything. I want to move forward. With you. With Lily. With this life we're building together." When Arthur kissed her, Genevieve tasted earth from the garden on his lips and thought it was the most honest kiss she had ever received. From inside the apartment, they heard Lily calling, "Are you guys being mushy out there?" They broke apart, laughing. "Yes," Arthur called back. "Very mushy." "Good," Lily replied. "Mushy is when you know it's real love." Genevieve and Arthur looked at each other and laughed again, realizing that an 8-year-old had just provided the most accurate definition of love either of them had ever heard. One morning, Lily showed Genevieve a drawing of 3 people in a flower garden with the caption, "My family is growing." Genevieve cried, feeling chosen for the first time in her life. "If you two still need me," she said, "I want to stay." Arthur embraced her. "Welcome home." The sunlit kitchen filled with Lily's laughter, Arthur making coffee, and Genevieve watering the flowers on the balcony. In a gentle twist of discovery, Genevieve found a box containing military medals and thank you letters. Arthur had once saved an entire emergency flight but never mentioned it. The knitted blanket, the drawings, the garden, symbols coming full circle. 6 months after walking away from her corporate empire, Genevieve's life looked nothing like what she had planned and everything like what she had needed. She had moved into a small apartment 3 blocks away, close enough to be part of Arthur and Lily's daily routine while maintaining an independence that felt healthy for all of them. Her work at the shelter had evolved into a leadership role, where she used her business experience to expand their programs and secure better funding. She was earning a fraction of her former salary but felt richer than she ever had. "I have something to show you both," Lily announced one Saturday morning, producing a large poster she had been working on secretly. It was a timeline of their story, illustrated with her distinctive artistic style. The day Genevieve needed help was prominently featured, but surrounding it were dozens of smaller moments: first pancakes, garden planting, family movie night, learning to be happy. "This is our story," she said proudly. "It starts scary, but it gets beautiful." Genevieve felt overwhelmed by the child's ability to see their unconventional beginning as part of a larger, beautiful narrative. That afternoon, they received an unexpected visitor. Arthur's former commanding officer, Colonel Davies, arrived in uniform, carrying a briefcase. "Finch," he said, embracing Arthur warmly. "Good to see you, son." "Colonel. What brings you here?" "Official business, actually. There's someone who's been trying to reach you." Genevieve watched curiously as the colonel opened his briefcase and pulled out several letters and photographs. "Flight for 47, emergency landing, March 2nd, 2019. Ring any bells?" Arthur's expression grew guarded. "Sir, I don't." 23 passengers and crew. Hydraulic failure over the Atlantic. You were the corpsman who kept them alive during the emergency landing. Genevieve felt her breath catch. Arthur had never mentioned this. The colonel handed over the letters. "These are from the families. They've been trying to thank you for 6 years." Lily bounced excitedly. "Daddy's a real hero." "He always was," the colonel said. "But he's also humble to a fault." After the colonel left, Genevieve confronted Arthur in their garden. "Why didn't you tell me?" "It wasn't relevant." "You saved 23 lives, and it wasn't relevant." Arthur continued trimming herbs, not meeting her eyes. "I did my job. That's all." "Arthur." Look at me. When he finally did, she saw the same deep humility that had drawn her to him originally. "You don't see it, do you? The pattern. You saved those passengers. You saved me at the airport. You save Lily every day just by being her father. You don't rescue people for glory or recognition. You do it because it's who you are. I see people who need help, and I help. It's not complicated. Genevieve laughed, not from humor but from wonder. That's exactly what makes it extraordinary. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Lily made her final announcement of the day. I know what I want to be when I grow up. What's that, sweet pea? Arthur asked. I want to help people like you and Genevieve do. But I want to help them with art, so they remember how to be happy. Genevieve and Arthur exchanged glances over her head, both understanding that their daughter, because that's what Lily had become to Genevieve, had already learned the most important lesson of all. Later, as Genevieve watered the flowers that had become symbols of their collective growth, she noticed something. The knitted blanket Clara had made was folded neatly on a chair nearby, no longer stored away but integrated into their daily life. Clara would be proud, she said to Arthur. Of what? Of the family you've built. Of the woman Lily's becoming because of your example. And of the life you've created from love instead of fear. Arthur nodded, touching the blanket gently. She always said home wasn't a place. It was the people you couldn't imagine living without. Genevieve smiled, understanding finally, and completely, what home actually meant. Family isn't where you're born, but where you're chosen, and where you choose again, every single day.